Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yes, to our viewers and to our listening audience, I am Willie Lightfoot.
And I am Lovely Warren.
And we are the hosts of the Love and Light podcast, where we lift up the people and things we love, and we talk about the things that people don't talk about at all or nearly enough.
Correct.
So this is episode number 40. We lift our hands in the sanctuary. We lift our hands to give him the glory. We lift our hands to give him the praise. And we will praise you for the rest of our days. We say that because today's episode 40, powered by 103.9 WDKX, is in the sanctuary. Yes. We're going to get into some heavy stuff about sanctuary cities. What does that mean? What is the impact? We were seeing a lot of this conversation happening across the country, and especially here locally in the city of Rochester. We have had a lot of conversations about this, and we know a lot of our listening audience may not know or fully understand about sanctuary cities. So we're in the sanctuary today.
Yeah, and what it means is, and City Council just passed a resolution recently to again reaffirm our commitment, or the city's commitment to sanctuary cities.
Yes, for Rochester, we did all 9 of us, which is very unique to get all 9 of us on the same page. But nonetheless, when it comes to protecting our citizens and our people in our city, we all came together on that purpose. And so I'm excited to jump into this today. You have very unique expertises in these areas, because a lot of this sanctuary city stuff is either it's legal, a lot of it's or it will continually potentially go to a legal discussion at some point. We've been told, and it's all of the things that we're talking about is public information. We've seen that there's been threats of lawsuits against the city of Rochester. I don't think they've been served yet, but nonetheless, there's been threats of getting rid of federal dollars and all of these types of things. We're going to get into all of that. But before we get into that, we have our love lifting segment. And I just really wanted to bring this, highlight this family, the Sanders family. Shador Sanders, his brother, his father, of course, Deion Sanders, and the whole Sanders family, the way that they handled this whole NFL draft. Of course, he was drafted, Shador was drafted to the Cleveland Browns. Congratulations to him and his brother and his family.
Which is historic, you know what I mean, in nature anyways, right? Because the first African-American football player played for the Cleveland Browns, right? And so, was it, right?
I'm not sure.
I believe so. Yeah, it was what was his name?
I don't know.
Gotta Google. The reason why I know this is because Assemblyman Gant was a Dodgers fan and a Cleveland Browns fan.
Okay.
And he was a fan of those two because
of that.
Because of that.
All right.
Literally.
Well, that's
wasn't the records. It was
we're going with that.
But I can't remember. I'm gonna find out before we leave.
Okay. We go. So but to me, first of all, he was blackballed. That's literally what was going on. And we heard later on that NFL players or NFL coaches were told to take him off the board, not to pick him. And then he went like 3rd in the draft before he was chosen, which was really not that bad, because we've had some great players who have been chosen in late rounds of the NFL draft. But nonetheless, it was a thing. And the way they handled it, they continued to be professional. They continued to be positive. They can, despite achieving that level of hate or level of disrespect. To me, was really a testament to that family.
So nasty was, one of those coaches' sons calling him and pranking him like, "Oh, well, you're gonna have to wait."
Yes,
and you could see and know that this was just a game, and it was really to humble him, right? To say like, "Look, we control your future. We control you. This is your dream, but we'll decide if you get it or not." And I just think that was, we're talking about 2025.
And that's why I brought it up, because it's 2025. And just because your confidence doesn't have to be looked at as being conceited or out of pocket or out of place. That family has earned their right in history, their father and their sons, and they have a right to be confident in their skills because they always produce.
Right.
And so I just said big up to the Sanders family. I look forward to seeing him on the field and making and shutting their mouths.
They said that like his jersey is gonna be like the number one jersey.
It already is. It's the number one selling jersey, rookie season jersey sold today.
Yes. So I mean that just shows like that despite what people try to do to you and despite them trying to control you, you can persevere and that people, support you. And Indeed. I think that them buying the jersey just shows that. So, big up to the Sanders family, but also to the Cleveland Browns as well. For
That's right.
For not falling victim to the nonsense.
Also, in that light, I also heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that the fans were also filing some type of lawsuit against the NFL too. I don't know, I saw it on social media, so I don't know how true that is, but nonetheless, there's consequences for everything. So, the NFL got to realize that their fans, these players, the people come to see the players and they make, the whole thing move. And so when you're doing this type of stuff, it can have an impact like we saw with the boycotts, with the financial boycotts and different things that we see have happened, have had impacts. So I think that this didn't go quite the way that they thought it was going to go,
Right. Listen, they persevered. Right. He persevered. And when he get on that field, I can show you better. I can tell you.
Amen to that. And that family is known to do that. Episode 40, powered by 103.9 WDKX in the Sanctuary. So before we even go into like the nuts and bolts of the sanctuary, what is a sanctuary city? And I'm gonna just give you the definition, and then I'd like to hear your perspective on it all as well. It says a sanctuary city is a municipality that limits its cooperation with federal immigration, right, and their authorities. Often it's enforcement of immigration laws. This means that they may restrict local law enforcement from assisting federal immigration officials, such as by refusing to hold individuals for immigration and custom enforcement, so that's ICE, after they have completed their local sentences. The goal is often to create a welcoming environment for immigrants, regardless of their legal status, by limiting their interactions with federal immigration enforcement. That's what
in a nutshell,
a sanctuary city is. And there are known sanctuary cities, obviously San Francisco, New York City, Chicago. We know that this goes back to Governor dating it back here in New York State many years ago.
And I believe in the 1980s, I think 1986.
Yes, I agree. I think it was around
Rochester became a sanctuary city. It was reaffirmed again back when I was mayor, and then you all just reaffirmed it again just recently after we've had the situation where the federal government is currently suing the city of Rochester for their sanctuary city policy.
And so the federal government stance on this whole thing is what? Like, what is the federal government stance?
So, in general, right, when you think about government, right, you have your federal government, you have state government, and you have your local government, right? And so you have, federal government, we're the parents, right? We're the parents. You have to do what we tell you to do. But there was something that was, the founders of our Constitution was very, very keen on, because before it was a federal government, every state was its own separate entity, right? A separate state, right? So you had the 13, I think the 13 colonies they called them before they were considered states. And then after, after we were, after the revolution, after all that came together and we became the United States of America, meaning that those 13 colonies came together and became partners in government and created the federal government. And in creating the federal government, the states were saying like, hey, we don't want to lose our autonomy. We don't want to lose our ability to make our own laws, to operate up by ourselves, and we don't want the federal government to impede on our ability to do that. And so there is the 10th Amendment that talks about commandeering, and that is where this issue of sanctuary cities come up, because when we look at it, and this is why I think that it's a federal case issue here because the federal government is saying like, hey, we want you and your local police departments to help us enforce our immigration laws, right?
And so, in that point there, that's what's prompted this whole conversation, because that's what happened here locally in the city of Rochester. You had a situation where ICE was detaining some individuals, and the local police department got involved for whatever reasons. We're not going into the details of that, but they got involved. And then they were basically, the administration here took a position that because we're a sanctuary city and we have policy against helping the federal government in any aspects in regards to immigration, that they were told that they were acting outside of the policy. So that prompted a federal immigration personnel from the federal government to get involved and say some things and then they recently came here to Rochester and basically took the side of the officers to say that they were within their right to do what they were doing, but there were clear policies that prohibited them from stepping outside of their particular role that they are taking. And so the federal government's position on this is that they want to say that the local governments should be assisting in these immigration detainments and et cetera.
Right. And I mean, typically we do work together on a number of things, right? So when you talk about drug enforcement, you have the Monroe County Task Force of Drug Enforcement, where, if they're doing a big drug bust, you have the FBI, you have state police, you have local police departments, you have the sheriff's department. So typically you do work together on other issues. This issue in particular, because of the sanctuary city policy and the fact that Rochester has affirmed itself again this year in 2025, as well, I believe in 2018 and in 1986, it's clearly that when it comes down to just this particular thing, that local law enforcement or Rochester Police Department are not allowed to assist, arrest, basically keep peace, but not allowed to do the arrest and other things like that. And I think that that's where the issue lies here.
So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. You being a lawyer, you being a former mayor, I just think that you bring a lot to this discussion. And I'm going to ask you some questions in regards to sanctuary cities, because we know when you look at any issue, there's always pros and cons, right? There's pros and cons to any policy, to any law, to any issue. And we hope to be able to hopefully bring a little more clarity to our listening and viewing audience, a little more concerning with this sanctuary policy. Do sanctuary cities help or hinder local law enforcement efforts? So I think that's a debate there.
I think this is more complicated because that's not a yes or no, right? And so I think that when you're looking at the sanctuary city policy, it is just basically saying like, hey, we want people that our country was founded by immigrants, right? It was founded by immigrants. There's if everybody traced their history back, it won't say that, necessarily you originated in the United States. Yeah. I mean, you might've been born here, but your lineage comes from another country besides the Native Americans, right? They are the true Americans. And so our founders of our Constitution understood that immigration was a big part of it, right? That's why you have the Statue of Liberty that's out there. And so that's in New York City to welcome immigrants into our communities. And so what cities are saying that our sanctuary cities like, hey, we want to welcome people into our community. We want them to understand that we respect them. We respect their right to be here. And we're going to assist them when they come to our community, legally or having, papers, to do so. So, this big issue of, some immigrants as well as some citizens that basically have committed some horrific crimes and need to be held accountable.
And that's the narrative. That seems to be a lot of the narrative that we're hearing coming from the federal government. Are these are criminals. These are drug dealers. These are violent murderers and criminals that we want to get off our streets and make our cities safer. And it's bringing about a lot of fear in the community, especially in the immigrant population, those who may be in the process of trying to become official citizens of this community. And so, I mean, like, why it seems like there's where the argument go. It's when we look
at
immigrants.
Are they truly though, right? So you have a small number of people that are causing these problems and, you know, making it bad, but many immigrants, most immigrants that have come to the United States come for a better opportunity, come for work, you know, and they are doing that work, right? So you go down to Florida and you look at who's, you know, in 110-degree heat on top of a roof, right? There are these immigrants. You know, even locally, you go out to sodas and to some places like that where, you know, people are picking apples and things like that. Those are migrants. Those are immigrants that have come to our communities to do those things. So majority of people that are coming to this country that are either seeking asylum or escaping from horrific acts that are happening in their country, or they're looking for better opportunity. You know, my father was an undocumented immigrant, you know, for many, many years until he was able to get his papers and things like that. So I think that, you know, overall, the majority of people that are coming here for opportunity. They're coming to take care of their families and they're sending money back home to their families, and they're not criminals. And, you know, for those people that are, of course, you want them to be held accountable. And I think that local government would hold them accountable.
Yeah, so I agree. And I think that, you know, all of the fear mongering around, you know, people being violent criminals and all of that kind of stuff is painting such a broad brush that it's really unfair for a lot of the immigrants who are law-abiding citizens, come for all the reasons that you just mentioned, that they just want a better quality of life. And unfortunately, their communities and their countries haven't offered them that. And like you said, if it wasn't for United States being that way, it wouldn't be how the diverse place that it is today. With because no one obviously is really from
salad,
here, right?
You got your tomatoes, you got your cucumbers, your onions and eggs, and salad.
It makes us who we are. It defines America is defined that way, you know, as that salad bowl, and we're proud of that. That's something that we actually take honor and pride in, and we see that the federal government is trying to change this. Episode 40, we're in the sanctuary, y'all. We're talking about sanctuary cities. We're looking at broader implications for non-immigrant residents in sanctuary cities. What could these types of policies that are trying to be brought down by the federal government impose upon local municipalities? What kind of broader implications could you see from your legal perspective on non-immigrant residents being in sanctuary cities?
Well, I mean, the federal government has a right to enforce federal laws, right? So you can't tell them that they can't come into the city of Rochester or any sanctuary city and not enforce federal laws. If someone is here undocumented, if someone has committed a crime against the federal government or something like that, they will they have the ability to do that, right? And I think that the big thing with sanctuary cities is, do local government have the right to say to the federal government, we won't assist you in that, right? And that's where this big question lies. Do we have to assist you in enforcing the federal immigration laws? Sanctuary cities have said no. And way back, because of the 10th Amendment and the commandeering law, it says that federal government can't impress upon states or cities or municipalities to enforce federal regulations or laws that the federal government have to enforce. They have their own police department. They have their own folks to do that, and they can't do that. And so that's where, you know, where this lies, right? And so one of the things is, you know, when someone is getting stopped or arrested, or, you know, do you run their papers and run their driver's license and check against rather their immigration status? It can cause sort of racial profiling and some other things. And we know back in, you know, early 2000s of what happened with racial profiling and a number of people that were arrested, not necessarily for committing a crime, but because it was racial profiling. And so I think that we run against a tight sort of thin line, a tight rope on due process and, people's First Amendment rights and other things when you're trying to have all these entities enforce, the immigration law.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope that we've shined a little bit of more light on sanctuary cities, what they are, broader implications of the different things that can happen when you impose federal policy on local government. I hope that we've opened up this conversation and dialogue for people to be able to have this conversation. There's a lot of fear within our community. We know that we've taken a stance as far as the city of Rochester, city council, the mayor, that we are going to continue to protect our citizens, all of our citizens, and stand on the rule of the law. And that this looks like if going the way that it's going, that it become a legal type of situation. That's why we wanted to hear from our lawyer here and former mayor, because we see that this could potentially go down a legal road. But nonetheless, we want everybody to continue to just keep looking up. Like we said, we lift our hands in the sanctuary. We're going to continue to give him glory. We're going to continue to give him praise. And like I said, for the rest of our days. Amen. Amen. So we're going to end here. We're going to come back next show. I think I want to next show, I want to get into maybe some PAB stuff. It's a lot going on over
it's
there.
a lot going on.
Yeah, I think I may want to. We're gonna look at that, but we want to hear from you guys. Call the text line, reach out to us on different topics, and remember, you can't put a lampshade on the sun. Continue to let your light shine.
Continue to do what you're doing and shining like the sun.
That part. God bless. Peace.